work for the NHS. You've had a great idea, you've made it happen, and it's made a big difference to how we can learn from COVID-19 and enter a new normal. Ideas like yours drive improvement and they deserve to be shared. That's what BOB does. Amplifying good ideas like yours across the NHS so as many people as possible can learn from, adapt and implement your idea. The further good ideas are shared by the BOB community who learn from them, the greater improvement we can achieve. You made a change. Share your solution with others. Speak to BOB.
Hi there, I'm Nick. Hi there, I'm Nick Voke and I'm BOB's Quality Manager. I'm here today to talk to you about all things BOB. I thought it'd be nice to give you a bit of a background on me. Until quite recently, I worked in the NHS. I was working in the pharmacy department and had done for around 8 years. My last job was to work under the brackets of QUIP, which was an NHS England pilot, and we brought in a lot of high-cost drugs into departments across the hospital, and what we wanted to do was make sure that they were being brought into practice in a way that's suitable for our staff, supports them, supports our patients on the changes, and makes things run as smoothly as is possible. And that was really where I gained my experience of wanting to have somewhere that I could share my learnings. I knew I was in a very, very fortunate position. I was able to have time dedicated to making packs of information that would be useful to be disseminated to other people. And I wanted to share that with other hospitals, and I wanted to be able to do it really easily and just have a place where people could go and click, and then that would be that. Prevent that reinvention of the wheel, prevent wasting time, and make sure that people are aligned where they can be and know that they're supported. That for me was really, really important. And a chance LinkedIn message from Mark, one of the co-founders of BOB, got through to myself, and we had a conversation about what was going on with BOB, what the thoughts were before. This was probably back in August 2019, and it was a great conversation to be able to have, and we just clicked. Basically, we had very similar interests. We had very similar moral backgrounds, principles, our moral compasses. We're all aligned to the same similar things. So I went to meet them, and we had a production session where we made post-it sets of what we thought BOB might look like, and I was very excited. So I came back to work in my job. I was very, very happy, and then I was asked by Mark and Neil if I would consider coming and joining BOB, and I couldn't miss the opportunity. The timing was a little bit tricky for me personally because I was joining BOB in March, and that's when coronavirus hit, and I felt a sense of guilt to be leaving a hospital at first, but I also knew that deep down this is much, much more important than what my brain at that time gave me the ability to think it was. And it's key for people to have somewhere that they can come and share all that experience, especially now. So much stuff has been done, so much red tape's been removed, and it's brilliant to be able to say that we've got a platform where all that can be shared, and it can be shared well, and it can be shared easily. We've got brilliant platforms that exist for sharing case studies and scientific journals and all these things that are so important to be able to make practice great. But what we don't have, and what I feel desperately need as NHS staff, is a how-to practical hub where people can share their project nuances, the intricacies, the things that make things tick, just who you need to maybe consider job role wise to be able to get the ball rolling on a project. How do you approach writing a business case? And all those kinds of things that you just don't know from the background. So it's nice to be able to have somewhere that we can do that, and we can do it well, and we can do it safe and securely for staff. Now, this should always be free. That's a mantra for BOB. That's a mantra for myself. Like, people need this, and I'm very, very privileged to be able to be part of it. So off the back of that, I joined BOB, like we say, and we did a little bit of user testing and some research with psychologists, and we came to the promise that there was probably about 4 things that really motivated people to share. Number one, it's part of their job role. So Part of my job role, I felt, was to disseminate that information to people that probably just did not have the time to. Altruism. People in the NHS are naturally altruistic. It's an incredible characteristic. 3, recognition for team having done a good job. I couldn't have done the projects that I did under the quit bracket without the team. It wasn't just me. It was nurses, the support workers, the receptionists, the pharmacists, the consultants, everybody that made that project work, and everybody that should be given that sense of achievement. And that's something that I feel that Bob really does address. And number 4 is career progression. So people want to progress. They want to be able to learn more and do more things. And that's great. And I feel that this platform really does support it. I'll come back to these slides at the end of this session, and we'll look at the things that really what Bob can do to address and support staff on looking at these. But for now, let's delve in.
What I'd love to start by is sharing you an actually finished and live impact story. To do this, we simply log in, click onto the tab that says Read Impact Stories, and here we can either search or click onto an impact story that interests us. I'd like to view the story called Rapid Rollout of Digital Consultations. As you can see, we have a video summary to the middle, and next, which walks you through to each question. To the left, there is Impact Story Overview. This is where we can skip to any given section of the impact story, or choose the icon to the top right to view a story as a single page. Under this, there is an icon where you can ask the author a question. And finally, there are also social media icons where you can share this story with your peers at the click of a button. So, this is a fully functioning write-up on Bob. Now we'll break it down and show you how the process actually works. So, let's get started and click on My Dashboard, located to the top right of your screen. Once on your dashboard, you'll come to see this screen showing all the stories that you've got live, ones that you're working on, and where you can start from scratch. You'll then see this screen, which is dedicated to your title and has a few tips on how best to approach this. I'll now click Next, and you'll come to see a set of questions. These are aimed to tell the Bob team a little bit about yourself, why you're writing your story, and what you want to gain from the write-up. We then come to a screen briefly explaining senior staff approval. There's no actions at this point on the website. You simply need to start thinking about who you would like to ask. Having approval from a senior staff member you either completed your project with or your line manager is really important to us. It acts as a proof for you from someone close to the project to capture any extra nuggets and considerations before it comes over to me for a final review. Compliance is super important to us, so we need to make sure there's none of the stated points mentioned on this screen in your project write-up. We are approved as working in line with national NHS digital standards, so we work to the same standards that you're used to already with data. Now we can see a pre-recorded screen. Let's watch it.
Hi there, I'm Nick Voke and I'm Bob's Quality Manager. I'm here today to run you through an introduction of what you can expect from writing up a story on Bob, and also I'm the person that reviews your story at the other end and helps you once you've hit submit. Bob's split into 3 sections. The first section is called the narrative. This aims at giving your reader a snapshot of all the things that will make them want to read more. Part 1 is designed for projects that are both live and completed. This unpacks the real how-to questions of redesigning your project. We have a section that's called Part 2. This is mostly designed for people that have completed projects. It contains things about outputs and outcomes and questions about sustainability and embedding in the future. We actively encourage you to complete as much of it as possible, and we also really want you to be putting in all the information you can while your project is still live. This is often where really important reflective nuggets get missed, because we can't remember everything in hindsight. If you get stuck along the way, we have a dedicated help page. It's got lots of really useful information and tips. If you'd like a really direct response, we have buttons at the bottom of every single web page called Get Help. Somebody will get in touch with you really quickly. We're really chuffed that you want to write up your project on Bob. We've designed it to make sharing easy and to make it embed good processes within the NHS without having to reinvent the wheel. So just thank you so much for your time, and if you've got anything that you need, you can always ping me a message along the way. Now's the time for you. Now's the time to grab a brew, get in your comfort zone and write up Bob in a way that works for you. and that's most important. Thank you for your time.
What I'd like to do now is to switch to show you a nearly completed impact story through to it being ready to submit. I've now come back to my dashboard. As you can see, I already have a story well in progress. I'll just click on this to continue. Now I'm onto the stories chapter guide. As you can see here, there are 3 sections you complete if your project's been completed, or just the first 2 sections if your project is still a live work in progress. Bob is designed to capture projects when they are live works in progress and when they've been completed. The reason for this is people capture the intricacies and project nuances in a much richer way in the moment than they do reflectively. It also offers you the chance to put your methods into practice. We now come to the last question set to be completed. As you can see, Bob has a word count. This is true for all questions on Bob. Our word count limit has been developed alongside behavioural psychologists and aims to focus you to help you give a concise answer. I'm just adding a few words to each bit now to demonstrate the sections. If you are anything like me, you'll probably want to dump your thoughts and musings somewhere before putting your concise answer onto the site. For now, I recommend a Word document that you can chop around and move around at your will. Remember, the purpose of your write-up is to develop a handy, rich in detail and easy-to-use how-to guide. So it's all about drawing out those quality and concise answers. What I would love to do now is to show you how you can add a document to a question. You can add a document to any of our questions. What I would do is to click the attachment icon at the bottom of the question set. From here, I would upload the document. We love being able to offer you this functionality and think others will really benefit from having documents to view as supportive pieces. Right now, attachments don't show up as being visible until your project becomes live. Please rest assured that it will come through to me for review, and I will add it at the right point to your story. Now I'm going to hit save and continue. This will take me back to the write-ups chapter page, where I will scroll to the bottom of the screen to write my summary. As you can see, all sections are now completed. This is shown by having ticks in each part, and I am now able to hit the submit button. Your story is now visible for me to review and to the Bob team. It will come directly to me and I will start the review process.
So, you've had your whistle-top story of Bob, and I'm sure there's lots of things that you'd like to know a little bit more about. My recommendation to find out a little bit more is to just delve in and sign up and get using Bob. Like, look at the stories, look at how you're writing, look at stories for inspiration for how you can write, get in touch with us to ask us questions and so forth. I just want to wrap this session up basically with looking at and considering how people actually write and how different people have different ways of writing and interacting with the experience of that. So Bob is a self-guided platform, and we've made Bob so that people can just work through it in their own way. Each question leads on sensibly from one another, and they're grouped to be sensibly too. We've got nudges that we can guide you along with on the way, and we've got sentence starters that make the process even easier to get started writing on those questions. However, we know that there are ways that people work, and we've done the user testing and worked with some psychologists to look at the intricacies of that. So some people will just want to go solo and they will just crack on with it. Some people will want full editorial support from a Bob team member along the way. So they'll want maybe a video call to talk through the questions and a bit of help to get started with the writing. Some people, me included, like to sound things out with somebody who wasn't part of a project. So we offer that as well. And some people just want to dip in and dip out when they've got time. So, you know, in between shifts, in between ward rounds and so forth. So Bob obviously offers the ability to do this. It's continuously saving in the background, and you can save and exit when you want to. So here at Bob, we are fully flexible. We're currently offering all levels of editorial support to match people's needs with getting used to the writing experience, because it is something new to people. And we're there to guide you along the way. So we'll make meetings available in timeframes that suit you. They can be long, they can be short, they can be on weekends, they can be on evenings. We're just really excited to have you as part of this journey with us.
So we're just going to bring things back round now, and what I'd like to do is just bring us round to that slide that I discussed earlier with what motivates someone to share. So if you remember, we said it's part of their job role, they're altruistic, they like the recognition for their team having done a good job, and they want career progression. A And what I'd like to do is suggest what Bob can offer to solve these problems. And the first thing I'd like to touch on is that Bob can support local embedding. As we all know too well, it can take years to do service redesign and run projects, and in that time people can move and chop jobs and all sorts of things along the way. So Bob is a place where people can embed their projects, whether they're in live state or whether they've completed them, in the now. So that means that whoever takes up that project in the future has a reference point, and there's also a reference point that people can change, because once a story is live on Bob, you can edit it, you can go onto your profile, you can add new details, and that's important because often projects have things that develop from them, so it's really important to keep your projects up to date. The second thing is Bob can help with the impact reporting for your project, so it can demonstrate to at board level and to your team the relevance and the need for why you did the project in the first place. Bob will also support your discussion with potential adopters, so you can use the piece that you do on Bob to use as a reference point for people that are asking you lots of questions about the great work that you've done with your project. So it has that initial conversation for you in a way that has everything in a succinct manner, which means that by the time somebody does get in touch with you, they want to know about the real nuances and they're really excited to hear from you. And the last thing is that we believe Bob is really useful for reflective learning and for CPD needs. So here at Bob, we know, as I said before, that our ambition is bold, and we're proud of that. We want to create a forever free shared learning ecosystem for NHS staff to use as a hub, where it's somewhere they can go to share insights and somewhere they can come to advice along the way. We're at the beginning of this journey and we just can't wait to share the creation process with you. I'd like to say thank you so much for watching, and now we'll open the floor to questions. Quality manager, I just thank you for watching our presentation that we've just ran through, the how-to video. I just want to cover that was covering basically the free side for the NHS staff. So we obviously have our sponsored section, and I just wanted to give a few bits of information about that. So what you can expect from that module is essentially the same. It will always be led by the NHS staff member that led on that project alongside the sponsor. There are a few additional bits of information though as well. So we also have sections where it tells you how the project was supported by the sponsor, and also bits on how you can contact the sponsor as well. We are now going to run into a questions and answer session, I do believe. We're able to finish in a little bit early, but it's no problem if we go over if anyone's got questions.
That's great. Hello, everyone. Hi, Nick. I'm going to be the question master, I guess, here. So I've got a few questions to start with. So the first one is about sign-off. Do you offer further support around getting sign-off? Is that question?
Okay, so I'd suppose that's probably aimed at the the NHS section, so I'll run through it from that sort of perspective. We offer a bit of extra support on that. So what we've devised is we've got an email that will be sent out to your line manager or person who's acting as the senior person to sign off, and we can liaise with them for you. So that makes that process really easy. We've actually had a story go live that's used it. It works really well functionally, and it's very simple for people to use. If they do want any extra information from us, they can contact me directly anyway. It says all that on the email that they'd be sent as the person signing off. So any questions can be answered alongside that as well.
Excellent. Okay. Another question here is if my project is part completed.
That's helpful.
Absolutely. So the next question is, my project is part completed. How can I add more information as it becomes available on my project?
Okay, so our modules are aimed at being able to be taken into out of information that you'll gain from data sets will evolve as well as will for a long time and be actively engaged on. So that's something that you can do if you've completed a project and you get updates. But as well as that, like we stated in the videos, we can also complete projects when they're in live states, which is very, very helpful often for writing down your intricacies, your nuances that you have popped down that maybe reflectively you wouldn't consider So there's two ways of doing it, but both of them are very simple steps. So you can take your story out of live and then resubmit it. It will go through the approval process again, and then it will go live on the same link that it was already published on.
That's great. Thanks, Nick. I'm just noticing your internet seems to be a bit jittery, so I don't know if you want to turn your video off. Maybe we might improve the. Give that a try. Perfect. And I just realised I completely jumped in without saying who I am. I'm Mark Southern, one of the other co-founders at BOB.health. So apologies. So the next question is, do you have to type your responses into the writing engine that you showed us earlier, Nick?
That's a very good question. Can I just check with you, Mark, that you can hear me quite all right now?
I can perfectly.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
There is actually functionality on mobile phones where you can use the dictate function. There's quite a lot of YouTube videos on how this can be used, and we've got some helpful hacks. We did release a blog on it, so if it's something people would be interested in, we can certainly give you information. And you can basically put the platform live questions up, and then you can dictate your answer into it. You could use this as just like a sounding hub to use it as a draft, or you could even use it just to complete your story with. So it's quite a useful functionality.
Excellent, thank you, Nick. So another question: if someone is quite busy, how can we or you help them create a story?
Another good question, and we spoke about it briefly on the video in our editorial support, so it's maybe worth me explaining that a little bit further. So this is something that we will do for our commercial sponsored stories, but we also offer it for our NHS staff. We know how busy everybody is normally, let alone right now. So depending on how people like to write and the process that they like to go through, we can offer full editorial support where we'll jump on a call with them and we'll create a draft that can then be sent back to them to add to Bob and write in their own manner and add all the details that they need to. Or we can be on the end of WhatsApp calls. We can basically be as amenable as possible. We can also do this. Is a good question that somebody asked me about a week or so ago was, can I give you a ring in an evening? And they felt a little bit guilty about it. It's not something anybody needs to feel guilty about. Completely understand the pressures that people are under. So more than happy to have calls arranged for early mornings and evenings.
Super. So another one that I've got here is, Bob is great, thank you, but I'm really busy right now. I can read stories, but is there anything else I can do to get the word out there about the stories that you have on the platform?
Yes, there is. There's really good functionality that we have on the website where you can just click onto what social media change that you use, or just email into colleagues that you use. So basically, if you see a story that you really love, please do share it. We're all about spreading and scaling the good ideas and getting the messages across.
Brilliant, absolutely. And then a similar question actually is saying, I'd love to get involved, my time is limited, what can I do? So similar to the previous one, but slightly different. Okay,
so outside of doing the sharing and talking to your peers and just getting the word out about what we're up to out there, we are loving and welcome and need user testers. Bob is developed for NHS staff to use, and it'd be really daft of us to not include NHS staff in its development. As well as that, we've got our collaborative and sponsored side, and we do the same on that as well. So we want to develop things that are functional for our users and our demographic, and for them to be able to engage with each other in an intuitive way. So if people had time to do user testing, we could definitely get sessions going that suit their timetables, and it's so useful and helpful for us.
That's great. I've just got another one in now. I can see there are some sponsored stories on the site. How do they differ from the others? I know you covered sponsored stuff initially, but maybe you could just highlight the main differences again of how they do differ on the site. Next, thank you.
Of course. Sponsored stories go into the exact same space that our NHS stories go into. However, they have a banner that clearly shows that they are sponsored stories. This is for transparency reasons, and it's also to celebrate the fact that we are working with responsible suppliers. That's a wonderful thing to be able to do. It's something I'm certainly proud of, and I think the NHS needs more of.
That's great. And actually, no more questions from anyone else, but I've got a question for you as well. Maybe you could talk us a little bit through what happens, what do you do when a story comes in? I know you briefly touched on it in the video, but I don't know if you might be able to elaborate on the kind of things that what you're looking for in a story, what makes a good story.
Okay, so as the final proof, so I will obviously liaise with people and do editorial support as ongoing when things are in draft. But when things come to me, they've already had the line manager proof and senior staff approval, and as we touched on in the video, that's important because I'm not a walking encyclopedia, and it would be really unprofessional of me to comment on things that people that are cardiovascular surgeons stating as policies and nuances and things that are really relevant for their project. So we need that involvement. So what I'm there for is to give that final proof and go, is there any extra information that might be useful for people? And making sure that everything is correct with spelling, punctuation, grammar. So we do that thorough check. We also make sure that links are working, and you can now add documents to Bob, and I will also give them a thorough review to make sure there's no grammatical, spelling, punctuation errors, that everything is up to date, and that the links work and so forth. So outside of that, that's what we do from the Bob proof.
Brilliant, absolutely. And just going back again, sorry, this isn't a question, this is just going back on what you were saying earlier around the sponsor stories. Looking at those differences between, you mentioned it earlier, and I guess, and the key thing that unites them really is the fact that it's always from the place of an NHS person sharing their experience. And within the sponsor stories, it's not just the individual, it's also other members of the team that could be involved. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that at all, Nick, yeah, in terms of co-authors and things like that. That's
something that is just, it's key. We don't often work as lone wolves when we're doing projects, and it's so important to mention co-authors where we can. So we have that functionality to be able to add co-authors to the Bob platform, and that's not just for kudos for them, but it's crucial really to celebrate the work of the team, because there's so much effort that goes into projects. Something that you think is going to take a month will take 2 years. There's often staff changes, so it's nice to be able to give that championing of the co-author.
Absolutely, and that's something we're offering in the sponsored modules at the moment. And in addition, I know that if there are external organisations, other collaboration partners that existed, they can also be cited as well, and they can be referenced within sponsored stories too. So it really does encapsulate all the various parties that were involved and make sure each of them has an equal voice and is allowed to give their view.
Yeah, it's key.
Absolutely. I'm just looking through. It looks like I've exhausted the questions there. I'm just going to see if there's any others coming through, but I think those were all the questions we had. Let me see, I think that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
I would like to just go back to our commercial stories and just state that obviously if we do have commercial stories on the site, then we do ask for them to be sponsored. It is what keeps this platform free and usable for our NHS staff, and it's what makes it a platform that can be a responsible place for us all to share and collaborate.
Absolutely, valid point, completely. And actually, this morning, Neil, my co-founder, and I had a presentation which describes in some detail around what Bob's about, but also we unpick a little bit more around the sponsored stories as well and give a bit more detail about our model and how we can remain free for the NHS. So I realise that's probably no good right now. You're on this stream, but I know the videos will be shared afterwards. So if you're interested, keep an eye out for that one, where we go through a little bit more detail about the origin story of Bob and also what we cover on there as well.
Amazing.
So
can I make one last point, Mark? Would that be okay?
Of course, absolutely, yeah. We're still within time.
Amazing. So it's just going back to the write-ups from in regards to NHS staff and for projects in general, really, whether it's commercial or not. Anyone can learn from anything is I hope what people can gain from listening to the Bob tracks. Whether or not I'm a cardiosurgeon and I work in supply chains, or whether I work in the pharmaceutical industry, there is benefits and learnings to be had that should be shared and celebrated, because we we can transfer that. You can't transfer the clinical skills, but you can transfer a lot of the background nuances, and it's crucial for us to develop.
Absolutely, that's a great point to end on. We've had no more questions, so I think we're going to be ending our giant festival after this session. Well, the Bob track anyway is going to be ending right now. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that's participated, that's contributed to any one of our sessions, that's asked questions, that's interacted with us. We've really enjoyed this as a Bob team. It's been a fantastic experience. We've loved talking about not only Bob, but also learning about what other people are doing in the system, and how we can all support each other. And also another shout out to the giant team themselves, and specifically Harris, who's been working as a technical support on our track. Thank you ever so much for doing that. We really appreciate it. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you ever so much, guys.
We're going to leave it there. Bye, everyone.
Take care.